Welcome to the Art Lady's home. Today I'm going to talk to you about how I designed my kitchen sink. And the kitchen sink area was actually designed to look like a piece of furniture. I wanted it to be to actually break up some of this cream color in my kitchen so that this kitchen blended with the living room. So I have three areas that kind of form a triangle, that triad of cherry wood in the kitchen. I have my island, my cooktop and cooktop vent, and then of course my kitchen sink. So it's part of that triad of cherry wood, and that blends in to the dining room and living room. And so it continues this color throughout the whole home, and it just balances color and creates unity with the whole room. So it joins these two pieces together. I also wanted to make my three pieces look like furniture so that the kitchen didn't look so stale with all those plain white cabinets. I wanted some decorative areas in the kitchen. And I especially wanted my sink area to be real decorative. And that's just to help bump my spirit up. Because when I'm at my sink doing dishes, this is one of the chores I absolutely hate doing. Dishes. So I wanted to make myself feel good when I'm doing this chore and these tasks. So I fell in love with this Safal faucet, and it has the Swarovski crystal handles, and I ended up searching the internet crazy for weeks and weeks and weeks, and I just couldn't justify myself spending so much money on a faucet. And then finally I stumbled on a super crazy clearance deal on eBay on this faucet, and I saved $600 just for looking, taking the time to look. And so this is my beautiful sink area that makes me feel good every time I go there and turn on that sink, every time I go there and put the dishes in the dishwasher. I just absolutely love everything about this. And that's the thing, make yourself happy. You're not making anybody else happy. A lot of people won't like my sink. A lot of people won't like my crystal handles. But I do, and that's what's most important, is if you like it. So do things that you like. Now, let me tell you a little bit about the nitty-gritty and the dimensions of this kitchen here. All of the cabinets, they are 24 inches wide, or in depth. They stick out from the wall 24 inches. Now, the cabinet that this sink was made to be put in was 24 inches as well. My brother had forgot that I had ordered, he was my cabinet maker. He had forgot that I had ordered an extra large sink. So if you are making your cabinets, or if you're having them made, make sure your cabinet maker knows the size of your sink, or even give him the sink, because the cabinet needs to be made. Otherwise you can order standard if you have a standard sink, but the cabinet needs to be made to fit your sink. And that's real important now, because nowadays you can get any size sink. There are trough sinks, there are triple sinks. My last sink had triple sinks. I chose to do one really huge, really deep sink here to put in my kitchen. But whatever sink you are choosing, you want to make sure that your cabinet is going to fit that. So those are things to think about when you are building. You also want to think about when you're designing it, if you're going to have the bump out. And my bump out is 3 inches. So this sticks out beyond my 24-inch cabinet. This sticks out 3 inches. Now, that 24-inch measurement is not including the drawer face. So the boxed cabinet, the cabinet box, actually it's the box, the cabinets are called boxes, and then you have the drawers and drawer faces. So the actual cabinet box is 24 inches from the wall. The bump out is 3 inches from that box cabinet, not the drawer face. But once you add the drawer face on this bump out, then it becomes 3 inches, or actually 3.5 inches, if that makes sense. So you want it, the bump out is 3 inches. Now you can have your bump out any depth, that's up to you. But the 3 inches is kind of standard, and also the 3 inches makes it so that this area, this bump out area, it's not clumsy when you're walking by. Sometimes if you walk by this area, if it's a 6 inch or a 5 inch, you're going to bump on that constantly, and the granite isn't, you know, isn't fun to bump into. So my cabinet maker, who is my brother, did suggest the 3 inch maximum bump out, so you're not bumping yourself on that corner. And I chose to have rounded corners coming off of this cabinet here. Now you can have, when you design this, you can have this area, this can be carved back in. So this area could be carved back down with the granite and across the sink area here. I've seen those done, but I think that that looks very awkward. And also, when you're doing your dishes, this area you can bump on. And also, I wanted, when I did this, I wanted this area in front of my sink to be as wide as possible, so that if it's real narrow, like if I had chose to do that, then this would have been not as wide, and then this is going to be, you know, it's all just going to drip on the face of the cabinet. So having it wider with a bigger overhang helps with that, the drips, if there's any water buildup. It's not going to end up coming off and dripping. It's just going to stay on your counter, and you just wipe it in. So I'm glad I did not do this decorative. Now, it's the guy in the granite store was suggesting come in, go around your corbels, and come down. And I didn't like that look. I'm really glad that I ended up doing this solid area around this sink area here. It also helps strengthen this area here, because when you have your granite, when it's a real narrow band, this is harder for the guys to install. And if they don't give a seam, mine did not have a seam here, then this is going to break. And if the thinner you have this, you're going to end up with the seam right in the middle of that area. So that's something to think about when you are designing your sink. Now, for my sink area, one thing I did wish I did was I wished that I would have had my sink raised up a little bit higher. I left it at the standard cabinet counter height, but I've seen them where they're higher up, and I'm tall, I'm 5'10", and when I do dishes, I am bending down into that sink because this is an extra deep sink. And so I'm bending over and bending in. And as I'm getting older, I've just turned 50. So as I'm getting older, I'm trying to find comfort for me. I don't care about resale. And I should have stuck with my gut on this and done it a little bit higher, so I'm not stooping over for, you know, with my back and back aches. And I wish I had done that a little bit higher. So if you're taller, you might want to consider having your sink area at a different height as higher than your counters. But that's up to you. That's just my opinion. So let's see, what else do I need to talk about? I've talked about my sink area, the width. You want to make sure that when you're buying the sink, that the sink is big enough to fit comfortably your largest pots. So what I did was, when I was looking online to buy the sinks, I just had measurements of my biggest pots, my biggest lasagna pans, and I wanted them to fit comfortably inside that sink. That's why I went with an extra deep sink, because I make a lot of soups and I have huge soup pots, and I wanted them to be able to fit in there comfortably and me be able to wash comfortably. You also want to make sure when you're doing your sink that the faucet is a wide area here, so it comes way out into the sink area, so it's not close near that granite splashing. So those are things to consider. And then another option I had when I was looking at my faucets and sinks and things is the spray. Sometimes it does not come with that sprayer. That sprayer is sometimes a little bit more money, and I'm being very cost conscious when I did this remodel. And so I debated back and forth on the sprayer. I just lucked out that this super clearance thing came on eBay and it came with the sprayer. But one of my options was to not have the sprayer so I could cut costs. But the sprayer does really make a difference. You need that sprayer sometimes, and that comes in handy. So I am glad I ended up getting that sprayer as well. With the